Well, here to discuss this and more is Congressman Greg Steube. He serves on the House Ways and Means Committee as well as the Intel Committee. He represents the 17th Congressional District of Florida. Congressman Steube, great to see you. Welcome back to Washington Watch.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Jody. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. All right, Congressman, first steps first. First things first, what's your response to the president's executive order?
I think it's great. I've been a co-sponsor of bills for years to try to do away with the Department of Education. That's a function of our school districts and our counties. It's a function of our states. It never should be a play at the federal level. You don't see anywhere listed in the Constitution where the Department of Education is contemplated. It's a great first step, but Congress needs to come behind the president now and support him in this. So through this reconciliation package, we need to do away with the Department of Education. We need to do the things that the president has done through executive order and back him up through the law so that once it gets through the process and gets through the bill, that the president can sign it and we no longer have to deal with this anymore. You can still do Pell Grants, you can still do that kind of thing, but ultimately dismantling the department is a good step in the right direction.
What is the temperature of Congress in that? Because, this is going to ultimately require congressional action to make this permanent. So how do you gauge it? What is it a real possibility that Congress will do away with the Department of Education?
Well, I sure hope so. With President Trump in the White House, you've seen the House move to his position on things because he's overwhelmingly supported by the American people. I certainly think it's a majority of Republicans that support dismantling the Department of Education, but we absolutely have to do these type of things. The American people want them done, and this is our opportunity to do it. We have to get fiscally responsible. We have to balance our budget. We have to reduce the deficit. We have to do all of those things because we have a Republican House, Senate, and a White House. If we don't do the things that President Trump campaigned on and we said that we were going to do, we're going to probably lose the House in the midterm. So we have to come through for him. Backing him up on all these issues, I think, is very, very important.
And just the dismal shape of the Department of Education and education in general in this country. And there's just so much involved in this. I just underscore with an exclamation point everything you just said, and the American people as a whole, I'm convinced, are pulling with you. So why, Congressman Steube, is the left so against this? I guess one could speculate, but what's your reasoning that you would suppose they're so opposed to this?
Teachers unions, 100%. The teachers unions obviously support it. The teachers union are 99% Democrat. You already saw the head of the teachers union saying that they are immediately going to file suit. They'll probably have that ready to go, and they're going to file that tomorrow. That's the left's response to anything these days, is to file a lawsuit knowing that district judges that are appointed by Biden will likely find in their favor, and we'll have to appeal, and the administration will have to appeal and go through the process. But it's absolutely 100% the teachers union. They love bureaucracy. They love the waste, fraud, and abuse, and they're all democratically run. So they're obviously going to push against this pretty considerably.
Well, you've been one of those ever since I've known you, or ever since this became a big issue. I'll probably put it that way. A strong defender of fairness and safety in female sports. And we certainly have seen how the previous Biden administration tried to use Title IX to push transgenderism. And, when you kind of look at that through the lens of the Department of Education, you kind of ask yourself, is this whole executive order and the move now underway to dismantle this department really part of perhaps doing away with the Department of Indoctrination/Education?
Yeah, think about all of the executive orders and the things that the Department of Education did on trans sports and women's sports and doing away with biological women only being allowed in women's sports. And it's a huge problem. This is a states' rights issue. The state should be determining this. Your local school districts should be determining this, not the federal government. And the federal government shouldn't do an edict from Washington, D.C. on allowing biological men and women women's sports in your K through 12 type scenarios, and then that has to be fulfilled nationwide. So it absolutely is a great thing that the president has done. I'm looking forward to Congress coming behind him and backing him up. We have to do this on all of these policies, from energy to the border to education. We only got 2 years to do this because there's no guarantee we're going to have the House in 2 years. We've got to get it done and support the president.
Hear, hear. If I can, Congressman Steube, shift gears on you a little bit. You previously served on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and you're currently on the Intel Committee, extremely important committee. However far you can go, at least, let me put it that way, can you give us your take on the latest developments with Russia and Ukraine?
Well, look, the president has said from the beginning when he campaigned that he wants peace in Eastern Europe, that he's going to bring the parties together and try to reach some type of deal. Neither side's probably going to like it, but it's going to prevent millions of people from dying. That has happened. Hundreds of thousands of Russians and Ukrainians that have died in this war. And he's been very strong on where America is. We're not going to continue to send tax dollars to Ukraine with no oversight whatsoever to fund an endless war in Ukraine. So the president's been very strong on this. He's had conversations this week with President Putin. He's had conversations with Zelensky. And I think we're going to come to a landing place at some point because both sides realize that they can't continue to do this. Ukraine certainly is going to realize that without the United States backing it militarily. And either the other countries in Europe are going to have to step up and support Ukraine, but it's going to continue to move this war for years on end. And that's not what the president wants. That's not what's good for America. It's not what's good for the world. We need peace in Eastern Europe, and the only person that can bring that is President Trump.
And it's pretty remarkable to watch all that unfold. As we look from Ukraine and Russia to Israel, the IDF, of course, has expanded now the ground operations into Rafah. How optimistic are you that the increased pressure that Israel is putting on Hamas is going to get them to change course?
Well, it's not only the pressure from Israel, it's the pressure from the White House and President Trump. I mean, telling Hamas, hey, if you don't get our hostages back, they're going to be hell to pay, sends a very strong message to terrorists. And that's the type of leadership that you need in the White House. And I fully support what Israel's doing. I believe that the president could be more active militarily over there and wipe Hamas off the grid. It's a globally recognized terrorist organization. They had American citizens as hostages for years, and the Biden administration did absolutely nothing about it. So I absolutely support what Israel's doing. The worldwide Middle Eastern community is trying to advise Hamas to come to some type of agreement here because they know what ultimately is going to happen, and they certainly don't want the United States involved militarily. But President Trump hasn't ruled that out, and I think if they're not willing to negotiate with the White House and President Trump, then absolutely we support Israel. We're going to continue to support Israel. And President Trump has full authority to take out a globally recognized terrorist organization.
Wow. Less than a minute left. But while I've got you, closely related to all of this is the 2-month deadline that President Trump has given Iran to accept the new nuclear deal. So how do you think Iran's going to respond to President Trump, especially after years of going nowhere, really, with the Biden administration?
When Trump left office the last time, Iran was broke. Then the Biden administration opened up $8 billion worth of revenue to Iran and has allowed them to fund these proxy wars. They fund Hamas. They fund Hezbollah. They fund the Houthis. All of those resources come from Iran. So we can cut them off economically, which I believe that the president's going to do if they won't do a nuclear deal. The world and the United States cannot stand for a nuclearized Iran, and we have to stand against it. There's no way that we should allow them to get nuclear capabilities. This White House understands that, unlike the previous White House. And if they don't take the deal, I think economically we put those sanctions back in place, and they're going to have real challenges.
Thank you so much, Congressman Greg Steube. Always great to see you. And, man, we appreciate your expertise and appreciate you coming on Washington Watch.